Arknights Enfield has been out for a few months now, and with the game having just gotten its 1.2 update at the wake of spring, maybe you finally want to get into the game. Depending on what you've heard, this game might be incredibly confusing, the factory elements of this game might just make me go bankrupt off of DoorDash fees, and 1 out of 3 people will become day drinkers with the pan. Regardless of who you are or where you are, hopefully this guide can help you. In this updated beginner's guide, you will be learning how to lock down natural resources, monetize the environment for your personal gain, and make more money than God through insider trading. My name is Braxophone, but you can call me Brax, and this is my updated beginner's guide for Arknights Enfield version 1.2. This video is going to get right into the meat of things and start with the most important thing when you get into the game: your authority level. After the intro sequence, you'll begin to level up pretty much immediately. If you're familiar with other gachas, authority level is basically just your account level. And if you're not familiar with what that is, this number acts as a barrier between you and missions, gear to make you stronger, and even the ability to access the new content in the Wuling area of the game, which is a whole separate map from what's going on here in Valley 4. Overall, leveling it up will help expand what you're able to do in the game, and that's why it's important. Now, the fastest way that you can get started leveling up your authority is by focusing on playing through the main story up until it walls you off and you get called broke and told to run some side quests. Eventually, you will have to hit a higher level of authority to be able to progress the main quest, which is going to take you to the new areas. When this happens, you can do things like side quests and run around the map and open chests, but you can also spend sanity on protocol spaces, and this is probably the best way to level up, but not always the most efficient. Sanity is just the stamina system in Enfield that limits how many times you can run farming content, and protocol spaces are just challenges that have you clear a couple of waves of mobs before giving you some important rewards, which could be anything from weapon XP, character XP, upgrade materials, and most importantly, they all come with authority level XP. A tip for these spaces, by the way, is that if your characters are strong enough to clear the lower tiers, but you're high enough level to do the higher tiers, you can not pay the stamina on the lower tiers and just clear them to unlock the higher versions. The higher versions will give you more rewards per sanity spent, and it's definitely worth doing the highest level ones that you can possibly clear. Once you run out of sanity, it'll prompt you to use an item to restore sanity or to use aura geometry, and you can use the sanity refill items if you have any of them, especially because some of them do expire over time. But definitely do not spend aura geometry on sanity unless you're like a giga whale who's going to be spending hundreds and thousands of dollars on this game. It tends to be more worth it to save your aura geometry, especially as a free-to-play player, since converting to stamina has a not so great rate, and because aura geometry is a very limited resource. If you're out of stamina, make sure to check the node tab out in your operation manual. This is a separate thing from your daily challenges, and it has an immense amount of free stuff to throw at you with very little effort you need to put in on your end. Just playing through the game normally, progressing the main story, side questing, and doing some basic exploration can get you pretty far through the nodes and gives you everything from upgrade materials to currency to pull with and quite a bit of XP. While you're running around farming protocol spaces and spending stamina, you might come across these things called weapon essences. You really don't have to worry about them in early game, especially because the ones you actually want to use are really only farmable in the late game, but the idea is that they're essentially upgrade modules for your weapons. All 3 of these attributes are completely random, and getting the perfect one that'll 100% match the weapon on your character is about as rare as you think it is. Just know it's important later, and once you're out of stamina and you get bored, like truly bored, and there's no other way to farm XP somehow, you can do the factory and character tutorials. But this is really something you can leave until the very last. They're certainly useful if you're curious about what each character does and how the factory machines work, but by the time that you're done with them, people are going to be wondering where you've been for the past 11 years. The real importance of leveling all of this is that your authority level is directly tied to how fast you can progress through the game and what gear you can craft. So the sooner you level up, the faster you can progress the main story and craft gear to equip your team that'll allow you to absolutely roll through enemies. Also, just to say this now since there's no good place to slot this in anywhere, make sure to check out your mail and go through all of the events in the events tab. Sometimes some little rewards are hiding away unclaimed, so it's always good to make sure that you get everything that you can. Overall, all of these things can contribute to your authority level in different ways, and I highly recommend focusing on aspects of the game that increase it if you're trying to catch up to where patch 1.2 is at. So this is where I might lose a lot of you, but stick with me. While you're progressing through the game, you're really going to want to be focused on building out your factory whenever you get downtime. I know the factory portion of this game can look very scary and complicated, and sometimes it is. The Wuling Gironite battery recipe is very real, and I lie awake at night thinking of why they would do that to us. But don't worry, it can't hurt you right now at least. It'll probably get you in the future. The factory acts as the catch-up to the big, bouncy meatloaf, which is obviously the combat and exploration. What's meatloaf without ketchup? And what's your progression in this game without the factory? Slow. painfully slow. So getting familiar with not just your main factory, but the other factories scattered around various zones you unlock as you play the game will make not just progressing easier, but exploring, combat, and even pulling for characters easier. Whenever you get a bit of downtime from main missions, take a moment to set up mining rigs on all of the resource nodes that you find around the map and connect them all up to power. The more ore you have to work with, the easier manufacturing and crafting stuff will be down the road. Your factory produces materials for you even while you're offline, and the materials it produces can either be kept for hoarding purposes or sold off to the other various factory outposts that you unlock. Stuff you'd make that you'd want to keep can be some incredibly useful items like healing items for your team, components to craft better gear for your team, or even these explosives that suddenly make exploring the map infinitely easier. Seriously, there's these rocks with red cracks all over the map, and the only way to break them is to have these explosives with you. And on top of that, a shocking amount of side quests use these explosives and puzzles to get you progress. I am openly encouraging you all to manufacture bombs. Then there's your outposts, and all of them are in desperate need of resources. All the materials you sell off to your factory outposts will give you stock bills, which can be used at stock redistribution centers to purchase upgrade currency, upgrade materials, passes to pull characters, character gifts to make your team stronger, and a secret vague thing that, oh man, you don't even want to know what it does. Okay, you actually do, and I'll talk about it, but just give me a second. Excess stock bills can then also be used to upgrade your various factories, unlocking area expansions, and the depot bus, which makes manufacturing goods even easier. Now, something really important to mention that I think everyone should be made aware of is that your base factory that you make is not the only factory that you'll have. As mentioned earlier, there are also the outposts, and you've probably already seen one by the time you're watching this video, but there's actually a total of 4 factories in Valley 4. There's the core AIC area that you start with, and then 3 other outposts. The second one you'll get by just playing the game, but the third one is in the Originium Science Park, and the fourth one is in the Power Plateau. The Power Plateau you likely won't get to until you've beaten the main story, but once you have access to all of these, it should become significantly easier to produce the items that you want. Wuling also starts you off with 2 of them, and every single expansion will be adding a potential for more of them. Enfield is very thorough in explaining how all the machines of a factory come together and what they do individually in the factory tutorial. However, to simplify it as much as I possibly can, everything in the factory is limited by the speed of the conveyor belts, which is a constant, and that means that it's really just a simple math version of a crafting menu. Let's take the LC Valley battery. You need 5 parts to 10 pieces of dust, which is a 1:2 ratio, and that means going into your battery crafting unit, you need 1 conveyor belt of parts and 2 conveyor belts of dust. Congratulations, you are now crafting basic batteries at maximum efficiency. All of the components you manufacture follow the basics laid out by this formula, and it's how your factory needs to be built if you want to maximize efficiency. On top of all of this, whenever you happen to look around and see these little nodes with owls on them, go and collect the upgrade materials it gives you. These are used to upgrade your spaceship, the OMV de Zhang. Like your factories, the facilities on your spaceship can produce things while you're offline, so it's always good to just have something going on up here that you can check in on. And I get it, I hear what you're saying to me. Brax, that's way too much to follow. You're so handsome, and I really need Zhuangfeng Yi to call me a good boy. You're a freak, and I'm definitely not projecting, but I can still help you out with all of the factory stuff. There are an endless amount of shared blueprints online that have individual factory modules, all working at maximum efficiency to produce items for you. If you paste as many of these as you can in all of your factories and leave it alone for a bit while you go do main quest stuff, you'll have enough components to craft a decent amount of gear and quite a bit of goods to sell off for value stock bills. Alright, so unlike Twitter.com, I am going to actually be telling you what the vague post was about now. Basically, the thing you're going to be using all of these Valley stock bills for is insider trading and stock manipulation. It's not illegal, you're the CEO in the game, and as we all know, CEOs can't ever get in trouble. To put this as simply as I can, not buying up the elastic goods every single day and selling them off is like being able to go back in time to 2016 and not investing all of your money into Nvidia and eventually Bitcoin. It's not super difficult, you buy low, sell high, and the best thing about these elastic goods is that they completely bypass the daily limit that you have with getting stock bills from your factory outposts. This means more Valley stock bills, some more pulls, more gear, more upgrade currency, you get the idea. Stocks get even better if you're willing to take a moment and send out a bunch of friend requests to random people in the hopes that they add you back. Not because you're a creep, but because the price of these elastic goods changes in your friends' worlds. And using the stock terminal in your spaceship, you can sell your elastic goods using the best price from your friends' worlds. Crashing worldly economies has never felt this good. Once you've bought up all the elastic goods you can, the best thing you can spend your remaining stock bills on are all of the one-time cheap resources, stuff like currency, character pulls, and upgrade materials for your weapons and characters. You can also pick up some pretty strong weapons. They're definitely no rate up 6 stars, but they'll help fill in the slots for the different characters you get. When you're a bit further into the game, you'll want to buy the discounted Valley engraving permits, but really just the ones that are like super discounted. Remember that extreme dream couponing show? That's you now. You show up to this guy in a bunny suit like he's HEB and flip out your binder of coupons and hopefully make him pay you. Eventually, when you get to Wuling, prioritize spending your Wuling stock bills on gear blueprints and these Wuling artificing crystals, which you'll use on your Wuling gear. After that, you can dump your money into Wuling engraving permits, and I think I just said Wuling like 6 times. Speaking of 6, let's go over teams and 6 stars. Before you really ever get to Wuling, you'll probably want to be progressing through the game with characters that you actually care about building, and I'm happy to inform you that there's a wide range of furries to choose from tier 1 furries safe for the family to like an actual dragon lizard guy, and even a panda who has the name Da Pan, who I feel like is being way overused in these video scripts. I don't even like that guy. With all these characters Enfield offers you to choose from, it's hard to find an explicitly bad choice, especially when you factor in all the different abilities, combos, and status effects. Ultimately, nothing can trump the age-old tactic of simply choosing your team based off of vibes. The same way it's valid for your Pokemon team to just be your roided out starter and the little chuds that act as sacrificial lambs when you need them to spam full restores. In that same vein, there's a more optimal team as well. Initially starting out in the game, Perlica and Endman are very strong characters for being default and given to you for free. Their abilities work together great to stack up quick damage on enemies, but actually, that's the secret, you see. Perlica and Endman were made to work with literally everybody. Either way, you can use Endman and Perlica to build some cool teams like a physical team or electric team. Personally, I really like the electric team, something like Aviwena, Perlica, Arknight, and a healer to round things out, like Ardelia. It'll really just shred through so many of the combat encounters and boss fights in this game like a hot knife through butter. By the way, do you guys remember when those 1000 degree knife videos were a thing? I only bring it up because I saw this stupid owl again and I can't help but wonder what it'd be like to just... Ardelia, the healer that I mentioned, is a completely free 6-star character that is still available to new players. You just need to log in for a few days in a row and she's yours. As for the other 6-star characters to go for, they're honestly all very solid, but I like Ardelia, and Last Rite is a top tier DPS that'll shred through whatever enemies you put in front of her. Regardless, when you progress a decent amount through the game, you're given a free 6-star character selector that allows you to choose between Pogman, Last Rite, Ember, and Li Feng. You can also choose Ardelia with that, but like she's still free with an event, so until that's out of date, there's literally no reason to waste your free 6-star character selector on her. Again, Last Rite is a top tier DPS, so if you like her, I definitely pick her, but all of the rest of them are good. Even Ember is useful in physical teams, and I'd argue she's the least appealing pick from a meta standpoint. Definitely one of the most appealing from a visual though. While you're still in early game and using healing items in battles, you can also swap out your healer or any of your secondary characters with Akikuri. Akikuri, especially now, is a great pick to invest in because she's a very strong 4-star that you can max copies on early, and she'll get much stronger later in the game with the new Frontier gear that just came out in the latest 1.2 update. She's usable in literally every team, it feels like. Not to mention, with this new update comes Zhuang Fengyi, who's also an electric character, so she could probably slot right in somewhere on your electric team, and Antal could also work for her in that case. Of course, if you just want to go guerrilla mode and hit stuff, you can build a team off of Endman, Chen Shanyu, and then take your pick between Da Pan, Li Feng, and Pogman. Ember also works here as an on-fielder. You don't have to follow any of these teams strictly, and to be honest, early on in the game, none of it really matters, but I do think that the more combo skills you're able to proc, the much faster combat will feel, and overall, I highly recommend building a physical or electric team if you're newer to the game. In order to get a lot of the characters that I mentioned, you'll have to interact with the Gacha part of Enfield, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it, it can be really confusing. If you really want to understand in depth how it works, you can refer to this wall of text, but to explain this in simple terms that aren't going to give you a literal aneurysm, you just want to focus on saving up as many pulls as you can to guarantee the character that you want. Enfield's Gacha is kind of just an all or nothing system, where sure, you can get lucky and win your 50-50s, but the smartest thing that you can do is just hold all of your pulls until you can guarantee getting the character you want. Thankfully, instead of having to sit around and wait to gather 160 pulls like other Gacha games, Enfield only requires 120 pulls to guarantee a character. If you want weapons for those characters though, you'll need to take a look at the arsenal. Enfield is unique in that instead of spending your character currency on weapons, you actually get weapon currency from pulling on characters. 4-star characters get you 20, 5-star characters get you 200, and 6-star characters get you 2,000 arsenal tickets. Now, unless you're buying a weapon outright, it costs like 1,980 arsenal tickets to open a weapon case, at which point you have a chance to pull from a bunch of different 4-star, 5-star, and 6-star weapons. One of these 6-star weapons, the one being advertised the heaviest, is going to have the lowest chance of dropping, as every time you roll a 6-star weapon, you have a 25% chance for it to be the rate up weapon. However, with that said, you are are guaranteed the rate up weapon after 80 pulls, and this also means that along the way you're likely to get a lot of solid weapons for the rest of your characters on your account while you're going for the one that you actually want. Trust me, I understand the sentiment that it seems bad that it's only a 25% chance, but overall, I have so many solid 6 stars for all of my different characters that I don't feel the need to pull for signatures because I already have so many good ones already. Now, while we're talking about premium currency, something very important to mention is the Battle Pass, because unlike other gacha games, you actually can get an upgraded version completely free to play. I mentioned Geometry much earlier in the video, but you have to know that it really should just be saved for spending on the second tier of the Battle Pass called the Protocol Pass, which is this screen here that has 3 different rows of rewards you can get for doing daily and node challenges. If you're a bit confused at this, it's really just a Battle Pass with 3 tiers. The first tier is available by default, playing through the game normally, and the second tier is still free to play, but you have to purchase it using 29 Geometry that you get sprinkled with as you progress through missions and challenge rewards in the game. The third tier requires purchase, and if you're free to play, you can completely ignore it. I highly recommend getting the second tier though, because if you complete it in full, you actually get more Geometry back than you spent, and in addition to that, you get a weapon crate that is full of various weapons for different rate up characters. All of these weapons are basically their second best in slot weapon, but they all provide a lot of value for them, and they can even work for other characters too. Overall, I do feel like the amount of currency you get as a free to play is actually pretty substantial, because having played through the game free to play, the amount of currency the game flicks at your forehead just for playing should get you to 120 pulls by the time that you need it the first time. And with the constant events they're running, there are more and more pulls and Geometry being thrown at you non-stop. I'd certainly recommend only spending any of your Geometry as an absolute last resort when you're pulling. There's really no other reason aside from the Battle Pass to spend Geometry unless you're really in a pinch and close to pity on a character you want. Now, if you've made it this far into the video, here's hoping any of this actually has sunk in for you, because that was a lot of information. Luckily, the game does walk you through the very basics of most of what I just talked about. I'm just giving you the information that you need to turn those basics into a massive advantage in progressing the game. When you drop into the game on your first day and really focus on leveling up your authority and unlocking factory outposts to set up as many factory machines as you can to manufacture goods, you'll be well on your way to getting started, especially if you're also making sure to keep an eye out for upgrade materials for your characters when you're exploring, in things like chests and challenges. If you collect them as you go, you don't actually have to go out and hunt them down later a lot of the time, and it's pretty nice. 1.2 just came out a few days ago, but with this guide, you'll be caught up and in Wuling in no time. But the real reason I made this video wasn't for you or for me, it was for the community, because I believe that with enough people playing Arknights Enfield, we can work together to make the Wuling Gironite battery recipe.